the end. So don't worry that don't think that you're not going to be able to ask questions, because you are. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm just getting this going on YouTube, and then we're gonna at the end. So don't worry that don't think that you're not going to be able to ask questions, because you are. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let me not hear myself. Perfect. All right, get this going here. All right. All right, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to hit record on this thing. Perfect. All right, here we go. And I am going to share my screen. And we're going to get started. Hi guys, Jason Leonard here. I'm very excited to be joining you all today. The point of today's presentation is to really talk about bringing all of your lighting together. As many of you know, I'm a big fan of using Rotolights. That's not a secret to anybody. But what the thing that excited me the most about this Pro launch on their lights was the fact that they could be used in tandem with Godox. And that's why the name of this presentation is bringing all of your lighting together. So what I'm going to do is I released a buyer's guide on this a little bit ago. On my YouTube channel, I released a buyer's guide on this topic. And so now I'm going to follow it up by doing a live stream. Now, I also want to preface this by saying I am sick right now. So if I cough or if my voice goes out, I apologize in advance. But it's pretty cold up here in Canada. And I know it gets colder, but I'm a California boy, so it's pretty cold. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to go through this, and then at the end answer any questions that you have, and to be as honest as I can be to help everybody truly find find the right gear that works for them. So there's two different lights that have just been released. There's the Neo 3 Pro and the EOS 2 Pro. This presentation is about speaking to the folks who, three different groups really, those who have, well, four really, those who are only Godox users or they're non-Rotolight users, because these can now be used in tandem with the Rotolights. I'm going to talk to the people who have bought Rotolights in the past but didn't buy the current ones like the original EOS 2 or the Neo 3. And then I'm going to talk to folks who have never, like I said, never bought them at all. So this is the base pricing on these lights. As I've mentioned in the videos that I've done for this, my job on this campaign was to create content. I'm not receiving a commission for anything you guys buy on these. So my job is to help answer questions and to help people understand, what they can do to make sure that they're utilizing their gear the best. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how I've used the Rotolights and the Godox together, and answer any and all questions that you have. The campaign, what is today? Today's the 15th, 16th. The campaign ends on, I think in 2 days, the 18th, I believe. And so this is a way for people to get those questions answered that they may have to, see if these lights do indeed work for them. Like I said, I got a little bit ahead of myself, but this really is advice for the current owners, past and non-owners. Because everybody's at a different level. And one thing that I'm very cognizant of is the fact that anybody who's been at any of my workshops or done anything like that, you'll know that whenever I give gear advice, I truly try to give gear advice that benefits you long term. I want there to be a return on the investment that you make, because my house is full, and I mean chock full of gear that I no longer use. And that is debilitating, because you're sitting there and you only have, myself included, all of us only have so many available funds to be able to purchase gear. So we want to make sure of a couple things. We want to make sure that gear doesn't become obsolete very quick. And we want to make sure that the gear that we purchase, we can grow with. That's kind of a philosophy for me in all aspects of my life. When I decided to start traveling, a tiny bit of a sidebar, but it does really relate to this. When I decided to start traveling a lot, I looked at brands that I could travel with that would end up being a long-term partnership for me. So from a Delta, Marriott, you know, all of these bigger brands. I wanted a brand that could take me anywhere that I wanted to go and that I get loyalty as part of it. And so when I look at photography gear, the whole reason I switched from Nikon to Sony was because, you know, back in the day, mirrorless was the future and I wanted something to grow with. I didn't want to put all my money into a ton of lenses and a ton of bodies that were going to become obsolete. Well, the same is true with lighting. I don't want to put my money into lighting that's going to become obsolete. I want something that I can grow with. And not only that, that the brand grows with me. That's a very important thing for me. So hence we're having this conversation right now. So when I give advice or when you're asking about gear, that's where I come from. I want you to be able to grow with this because, you know, a lot of us will save $1,000, $2,000, whatever dollars to buy a piece of gear. And if that gear doesn't work out, that can be a real backbreaker because it's tough to sell the gear. And that may have been it for us. Like that may have been our budget for a year to be able to buy something substantial. And if it doesn't pan out, that's really a backbreaker. And so anything that I give is based on that philosophy and my experience having done that. So just wanted to let you know. Like I said, one of the biggest things for me was syncing with the Godox system. There's no one light, there's no one bag, there's no one lens, there's no one camera that services all of our needs. There's some that come close, like I love the Sony a7 IV, and I'm not trying to get into Sony, Nikon, Canon more because all of them are, from a mirrorless perspective, are doing great at this point. But the point is, there are things that come close, but nothing services all of our needs. So like, and I'm only bringing up comparisons to cameras because I think it helps us to see kind of what I'm talking about. But, you know, with cameras like this a7 IV, it does all these wonderful things for me. But if I really want a super high resolution image, you know, it's only 33 megapixels. So it's not going to service all of my needs or some needs that just cannot be met by that camera. Well, the same is true with lighting. While I utilize my Rotolights for a lot of different things and I love them, and you guys have seen recently, I've just been incorporating so much color and so many more different aspects of that into my photography. It still doesn't service all of my needs. You know, there's times where you need a 600 watt second monolight to go out there and just blast your subject with light when it's super bright outside. And so again, when Rotolight first approached me about this pro campaign, when I spoke to the CEO back in beginning of August, and he told me the thing that excited me the most was the Godox. So when I've been giving advice to my friends, when I've had photographer friends that have texted me, direct messaged me, whatever, about the pro lights, I've tried to let them know this is why I would get these lights if it's something that you want. And it's that compatibility with Godox. That's the biggest advantage for me with these lights. I say Godox, but it does do other systems. It's not just Godox. It does ProPhoto, it does Newer, it does Pixapro. But let's face it. I mean, I'm out there with all of you guys and gals on the daily doing these workshops, and my boots are on the ground with yours. And we all know that the vast majority of photographers out there they're using Godox. It's a price thing. So being able to use these interchangeably with that has been a big benefit to me, and I think it will be to a lot of other photographers. These two shots that you're looking at here of Miss Alyssa, these are both taken with Godox and Rotolight working together. I used a key light. The picture of the left where Alyssa's looking in her bag, that's the Godox 8600 is my key light, and then I've stuck a little Neo 3 Pro inside of her bag and strobed it. So you see that illumination that's coming up on her face. I use that Neo 3 Pro to put it inside that bag and strobe her. That's a really great example of using these lights together. And the reason for that is if you put an 8200, like a Godox 8200 inside that bag and you strobed it up, yes, you could put like the Gary Fong, whatever the Fong Dong, whatever they call that thing that he puts his light sphere, puts on top of the lights, but it still wouldn't have that soft light coming out. So that's just a Neo 3 with the dome on it and no other diffusion. And so being able to stick something like that inside of that bag and get that illumination on her face without it being overexposed or hard spots, harsh spots, specular highlights is really pretty awesome. The example on the right is, again, using the Godox as my key light, and then I'm using an AOS 2 Pro behind, illuminating the wall with blue, and then I'm the graffiti, and then I'm using a Neo 3 Pro on picture right to cast color onto her. And that's a big thing. So when people ask me about why would I use Godox and Rotolight together? I think that one of the biggest reasons is if you know, when needed, you can get the power that you need out of a Godox, but then you can get the color and the other special effects that a Rotolight can do that a Godox can't touch. That's just the truth. Like, you know, I'm over the days of, if you've ever used these new Rotolights and you can just change any color and do what you want, you will not ever want to gel another light manually again. You'll never want to do it. It's a pain in the butt. If it's not right, if the tone's off, you're out of luck. Well, with these lights, you know, just move them around and you pick the exact color that you want, and you do it. I mean, I just did a photo walk here in Toronto. It was amazing. You know, we're shooting on these trains, and I was setting up all the lights differently and using the color to really tell more of a story, and as rim light, as backlight, as accent lighting on the train, on the walkway of the train. It was really, really cool. So again, I'm just trying to show how I share how I shoot. And the other thing that's true of my work is that I really believe in storytelling. And I always tell people I feel like I'm much more of a movie director than I am just a photographer. Like I'm really into that kind of a lighting kind of a scenario. So when you're doing these things, that's the way my mind is always thinking. You know, how can we make this more interesting? And so that's why I love being able to use these together. So that's just talking to everyone out there about these lights. One of the things that people said when we released these lights, I shouldn't say we, I didn't release them. When Rotolight released these lights, one thing that the people who bought in the last campaign, a lot of you wonderful people out there who bought in the last campaign, you're like, damn, we just bought the last campaign and now you're coming out with the pro version. And so one thing that Rotolight did that was very, very cool is that they made the lights backwards compatible, in the sense that if you buy one pro light, there's an Elechrome chip inside of the lights. And if you buy one pro light, when you fire a flash signal from a Godox transmitter, it'll fire a flash signal to that pro light for it to trigger flash. Well, what that does is then that pro light will then talk to your Neo 2, your EOS 1, your Anova Pro 2, your Titans. It'll talk to all of those older lights and fire and trigger a flash from those lights that syncs completely with your work, which is really, really cool. So I released a video on that. This is a video that I did where I did 9 different lights together to create something like this. And again, my Godox is my key. Then I use EOS 2 Pros and Neo 3 Pros, Neo 3s, EOS 2s, EOS 1s, Anova Pros. I used a lot of different lights to really go out and have some fun. And so yeah, people are like, why would you ever want to use 9 lights together? And I'm like, well, if you haven't, why not? It's fun. Number 2, I wanted to try to cover as wide of a spectrum as I could for people out there. So anybody that was interested could, you know, hey, I may not have 9 lights, I may not have 5 lights, but I have that one. And so I was trying to target different folks who may have different lights and hopefully help folks out there. A lot of discussion has been around the power comparison on the EOS 2 Pros versus the EOS 2s, or the Neo 3 Pros versus the Neo 3s. The Pro versions are a little bit brighter, guys. I want to make sure that I'm very clear on that. If you look at the light meter test that I did on the original versus the Pro versions, Rotolight was able to get a little bit more power out of the lights, but only in continuous mode. There's no additional power when you strobe them. So if you already own an EOS 2 or Neo 3, don't expect to get more power out of it when you flash. You won't get any more power. You are already at the max power on the originals. And on the Pro versions versus the originals, that additional power only comes at specific color, specific Kelvin. So like on an EOS 2 Pro, your brightest spot is at 4600 Kelvin. So it'll go around 20-25% brighter, but it's not that much. And that's why if you look at the comparison picture there, you can see that. So I want to make sure when people are asking me directly, hey, what about the power? What about that? I always tell them, I said, look, if you're buying this light only for power, then that's not the right decision factor, because if you're only buying it for the power, then it's not that's not its strong suit. Its strong suit is the compatibility and the presets and the other things that it does. So just understand that. This is a comparison of the Neo 3 Pro versus the Neo 3 Original. Again, it's the same scenario where it's marginally brighter. And you're going to get your brightest areas in the Neo 3 Pro versus the Neo 3 at 3200 and 5600 Kelvin. Across the other areas of Kelvin, you're going to get around 10% brighter. So just understand that when you're looking at these lights. I just want to make that abundantly clear because I want everyone to be fully aware of what these lights can and cannot do. There's two different transmitters. There's the full control, the Elechrome Skyport transmitter control, and then there's just regular Godox. You can just use a Godox. Again, this is another thing I really want to make people aware of, just so everyone understands that when you use your Elechrome Skyport transmitter, it has complete control over all of your lights. Like you can change your color and your flash output, and you can change the output as it relates to continuous mode and white balance and all that other stuff. When it comes to Godox, there's no controlling of the lights other than it fires a flash signal. So when you put a Godox transmitter onto your camera and you fire a Neo 3 Pro or an EOS 2 Pro, what Rotolight did was they just put a receiver inside of the lights. So there's just a Godox or Profoto or whatever other receiver that's inside of the lights. So all it's doing is receiving that flash signal and firing it. So don't expect to get a Neo 3 Pro or an EOS 2 Pro and then you can control all of your lights like you can with an Elechrome. You won't be able to do that. So again, this is where if maybe you were a Godox user and you never used Rotolight in the past, it's great because you don't have to buy another transmitter. You can just fire if you bought a Rotolight new, you could fire it with your Godox transmitter. That's really the way the approach that I've taken on this, and I hope it helps other folks out there. Now, the one huge benefit is the app. You can use the app with Rotolight. If you guys haven't used the app with the Rotolight, it's really pretty cool. You can change everything directly from your phone. So while there may not be the functionality to be able to do it with Godox, you can certainly set your lights up, and then you can change color or change anything excuse me, anything that you want on it. That being said, I've said this for the longest time and I'll still stand by it. Whenever I shoot Rotolight, guys, unless there's some weird circumstance where I'm trying to say conserve power, unless I'm doing that, I always fire my flashes on full with the Rotolights anyways. So that being the case, you really wouldn't have to change the flash output much. So that's why the Godox works with me, because if I'm going to shoot Godox in tandem with my Rotolights, I have no need to really change the flash output on my Rotolights. I just don't. But I would, use the app to change, if I wanted a color or if I wanted, to change white balance or something like that. That being said, if you do use these with Godox is 5600. So unless you want your white balance to be all screwed up, I really recommend moving your Rotolights to 5600 if you're going to strobe them in tandem with a Godox, because otherwise your white balance will be off and the tones won't look right. All right, I'm going to take a quick drink break. Just my throat's getting dry. Thank you for your patience. Like I said, I'm a little under the weather. Primary uses of a Neo 3 Pro, macro work, on camera work. You could use it for putting that light on your camera, putting it in the shoe, things of that nature would be very beneficial for a lot like that. If you watch my buyer's guide, I share examples of using it like that. This is an image I took at a wedding of a macro shot of the wedding rings. That's a wine glass and something else in the background that I spilled purposely on the table to give some nice bokeh and some nice reflection of color. This is using two Neo 3s. So again, a Neo 3 Pro is going to behave exactly the same way in this kind of an environment. So this is where having that smaller, more portable light would be very, very beneficial. An AOS 2 Pro, or the primary use of this light is, in many circumstances, it can be your key light. It really is a lot of fun to play with, and being able to use these lights. Like, I'm not gonna lie, my favorite kit is two AOS 2 Pros and a Neo 3. That's my favorite kit. It's what I travel around with right now. A lot of times I'll set up an AOS 2 Pro as my key, an AOS 2 Pro as a rim, and then I'll use a Neo 3 for accent lighting, color, something like that. It really is a lot of fun. And I love these lights. If I could only take one light around with me, it would be the AOS 2 Pro. It wouldn't be a Godox. The Godox is going to prevail where it's very, very bright, but I don't like to shoot when it's super, super bright because it's just not good lighting. Typically at that time of the day, when you're shooting in the middle of the day, the clouds are overblown by the sun. So, and everything else is overblown. So if you can, I try, like a lot of photographers, I try to shoot, a little bit into the latter end of the day, maybe, depending on the sunset, of course, but 2 or 3 o'clock and on is when I really go out and start shooting it. And in those circumstances, unless it's a complete no cloud, full sun, I can use my AOS 2 Pro. And it's been very good to me, or my AOS 2, but I mean, it's been very good to me for that purpose. In fact, if you look at these two pictures here, this kind of shows what I'm trying to say with the Master of Light presets. But back to I'm talking about a kit. The picture there of Alyssa on the left, that's just an empty parking lot that we did at my Nashville photo walk that turned into a really cool set. It's just blah. And this is where the color comes into play. For the longest time, especially as a newer photographer, I would put my strobes up and my speed lights and put them on the ground, and you get some really cool, lighting effects, but the color just becomes real vanilla, becomes boring, because all you're doing is throwing light, but you're not really painting light or painting color. So these are two really good examples of, if you look at the picture on the left, she's being lit by an AOS 2 Pro that is actually being diffused by the illuminator. The good old Jason Linear Edition illuminator. An illuminator on the left is illuminating Alyssa sitting in the chair. And then I have another AOS 2 Pro casting yellow onto the wall to paint that color that I wanted onto the wall. And then I have a Neo 3 Pro pushing pink onto the ground, or that purple, pink's not the right, purple onto the pavement to create a really dynamic image. Again, and then the picture on the right is my St. Louis photo walk, where we have a beautiful, that's a new soccer stadium that they built in downtown St. Louis. And so I have a key light is my AOS 2 Pro shining on Miss Alyssa, and then it's just one AOS 2 Pro behind her in red. Again, this is another example of where having that color available to me has been a big benefit, because I can really, instead of it just being light behind her, I can actually match it to the background, and it makes for some really cool stuff. And these are some of the things that Rotolight has incorporated into the Master of Light preset pack, in that it gives you the ability to see what some of the Masters of Light are doing. And so if you're interested in that and you can see what some of them do, to be able to, hey, this is my favorite color, this is my favorite this is my favorite that, you can click on their name and then you can, see what they do. And for some folks, it may be very beneficial, because you can, sit there and get a good starting point and figure out what they're doing, which is really, really good for some folks. Also, if you're an existing Rotolight AOS 2 or Neo 3 user owner, you can also just purchase this preset pack as a firmware download. So just keep that in mind as well. I think it's like $65. By far, the funnest thing that I've played with in a long time and is illuminating me right now is the AOS 2 Smart Softbox. This just fit. I did a video on this, so you can check that out as well. But this is the easiest to use modifier that I've ever used. Typically in a scenario like this, where I want to be illuminated and I don't want to be blown out, and I want to be able to expose for the background in Niagara Falls as you're watching on the live stream, I would have to set up a bigger modifier, and in my hotel room, that's not always possible with all of the different space and whatever requirements that I have. So being able to utilize this softbox in a manner like this is really beneficial because I can go anywhere and just play with it. And it fits right in my bag. So if you haven't watched that video, check that out, guys. It's really freaking cool. And the fact that you can change the diffusion without having to change the size of the light or pull out some big, huge modifier is really, really cool. Also keep in mind that Rotolight's doing like a thing on their Kickstarter, on their Indiegogo campaign, where you can get 25% off this smart softbox. So even if you didn't, even if you're a current AOS 2 or Neo 3 owner, you can use this smart softbox on your light. Excuse me. If you're an AOS 2 owner, you can use this softbox on your light. So if you bought in the last campaign, you can add this to your AOS 2. They don't have one for the Neo 3. Add-on accessories. I have this light, the Titan X1. There's a bunch of things on there, popular add-ons when you go onto there, but there's a bunch of really cool things on there, guys. The Titan X1, it's normally like $4,000 or something, $4,500, and right now it's 40% off. I think it's like $2,300. So there's some really cool stuff on there. So if you are a Rotolight user and you want to get in on some of the stuff, that's a really great opportunity for you to do so. My best one light option, I kind of went over this already, but if I only have one light, it would be the AOS 2 Pro. And if I only had one modifier light combination, it would be the AOS 2 Pro plus the smart softbox. The image on the left was actually from my Toronto photo walk, and that's Miss Alyssa on a train being lit just by an AOS 2 smart softbox with one AOS 2 Pro. Best multi-light kit. Again, this is another example where I just love these colors. Is what I said earlier, it's two AOS 2 Pros plus a Neo 3. What you're looking at with Alyssa there is that's a AOS 2 Pro behind the couch, pushing that purple onto the clouds and the wall. And that's an AOS 2 Pro with the smart softbox as the key light in this shot. And then that's a Neo 3 Pro with a blue that's behind the suitcase that's illuminating her pants and the ground and everything else. I'll just say this, and this is something I teach in my workshops. If you struggle with lighting, if you learn how to light with LEDs first, it will really help you with your flash, your pure flash game as well, because you'll start to see it. It's sometimes real difficult when you're doing just straight up strobes, because with the straight up strobes, you have to take a picture and then see what you got. Take a picture and see what you got. And again, just like I really adopted the mirrorless technology, I've adopted the LED technology because of the fact that I'm able to truly bring the most out of my mirrorless camera, because what you see is what you get. And so a shot like this is, for those who were at my Toronto event, this is at our pro event that we did here in Toronto, is really awesome. Just being able to see it and piece it all together. So if you're listening to this, watching this, and you're out there and you struggle with your lighting, using continuous lighting really helps you to see the shot before you take it, and it helps you to create a better shot and fix the errors before you take a ton of images. And so for that reason, I'm a huge fan of it. Wedding light kit. I get asked a lot of questions about what would I do for a wedding. Here's some BTS from a wedding that I did back in June. This is with AOS 2 and a Neo 3. Again, this would be what I would utilize. The only time I'd pull out a Godox at a wedding is if, again, same circumstances. Let's say the bride and groom want to do a first look prior to the they want to do a first look prior to the ceremony, because typically ceremonies happen, maybe an hour or two before sunset. So typically the light's getting better around the ceremony. But if they want to do a first look or something, I might have to pull out a Godox to be able to fire in that kind of a scenario because of the brightness. But other than that, I mean, shooting anything else from the group shots to any of those other things, you could do with an AOS 2 and a Neo 3 Pro. Now, if you have a big group, we're talking 20, 30 people for like your family portraits, you would need two AOS 2 Pros. You just would. And to that end, even though, because I've done it all, good, bad, and otherwise, even if you had an 8600, and it was powerful enough to strobe. Just follow me on this. Even if that's not a power thing, even if you had enough power to strobe all of those 30, 40, whatever people, the problem is, and I've done it, you put the light up and you strobe that Godox across, that all of those people. It's gonna, depending on where they're standing and what you're doing, there's gonna be a lot of shadows that are cast from different people. So even if you shot that Godox, you would want to have 2 lights coming in at the sides so you get really nice lighting, almost portrait lighting outdoors. The same holds true for doing this with a Rotolight. So if I had 2 AOS 2 Pros, in a larger group, because I do get these questions about groups, I would put one on the left and one on the right, and I would aim them towards the center and to cover all of my subjects, and you can create some really nice lighting. Again, and then I would use the Neo 3 Pro, for macro shots. Forget about using Godox with macro shots. All that stuff indoors would be a nightmare. Absolute nightmare. I would never do it. I kudos, and I did it. I did it back in the day. I used a speed light like everyone else out there. Normal flash. That's for the birds, as my grandma would say. I'm not doing it. So can't focus indoors. Focus assist sucks on cameras. A lot of times receptions are dark. So this is when Rotolight just wipes away the Godox. And so that's why I'm going to keep reiterating it. That's why for the first time ever, I feel like I have all of my systems available. And when they talk to each other, it makes it even better. So I'm excited about that. Modifier recommendations. The modifier on the left is a Rotolight R90. That's a traditional Bowens mount modifier. Again, the reason I love this is because it's a big modifier. So when I do need that big push of light, I can get it. And I'm glad that Rotolight came out with one that is Bowens mount. Yes, I strongly encourage them to do that. And then I really encourage them to build an adapter so the Rotolights could work with their with the Bowens mount modifier, because the last thing we want to do as photographers is be switching modifiers. Just from a cost perspective and from a time perspective, it's a lot. It really is. It's a pain in the ass. So being able to use these together is great. So I can take that R90, and I've done it a lot. I've taken that R90 and put it on my 8600 and gone crazy with it. And it really is a really nice modifier for those purposes. And it's really great for using with the Rotolights as well. That's an AOS 2 Pro, that's an AOS 2 inside of it on the BTS on the left, and on the right, that's the AOS 2 Smart Softbox that I spoke about earlier. Rotolight is offering an installment plan, just so you guys know. So if you put around $600 down, I'm saying around because I'm in Canada. It's just so funny doing these videos. I'm in Canada talking about a product that's listed in British pounds and then trying to convert it to US dollars for people. So it's around there, whatever the currency breakdown is. But it's around $600. The cool thing about the installment plan is if you put that money down, it's like a save your space. So if you don't have all the funds available to you right now, you put that money down, and then from there you can get the pricing of the pro campaign, which ends in like 2, 3, whatever days. And then you don't have to pay the remainder until Rotolight contacts you and says, hey, it's ready to ship. And I know that's a big deal for people, because when we did the Kickstarter last time that I did with Rotolight, we were talking about it and launching it in October into early November. And then the products didn't start shipping until February, March, April, sometime in there. And people had to pay everything up front, which for some folks that they didn't like it. So being able to have the installment plan, I think, is great, because Rotolight, you don't have to make a large financial commitment until that product is ready to ship. I can tell you that from what I've been told, this current campaign, they're projecting to be able to ship these products in January. So January 2023. So my conclusion is simple. I just love things that benefit us. There's no other way to put it. I love things that benefit us. I love things that help us create our work more easily, stuff that we can continue to use. And I love things that help us to grow, because it's tough to do all this stuff in the world of photography with inflation and chaos in the world and everything else going on in this very, very crazy world, we need some sanity in our industry. And so I endorse and embrace any products or technology that help us do that. So you know, there's a place for every product, and there's a need for every product. So, I'll just answer this because people are, well, Jason, if Godox is more powerful, why wouldn't you use them all the time? Simple. I only use Godox when I really need the power for a couple reasons. A, the recycle time on a Godox, as you know, the only way it gets all that power is by pushing it out all at once. And so if you're firing at a full strobe, it's going to take you 2 or 3 more seconds just for that one flash to recycle. Also, if you've watched my videos, man, I burn those Godox out. I mean, I really do. Like, I'll go through 2 or 3 Godox 8600s a year, easy. I blow out the batteries. I blow out the motors. They give me these error messages. Like, I could post stuff like of these lights. So why do I use Godox? Well, they're cheap. Let's be real. The other reason I use Godox is, I mean, when they do work, they work great. Why don't I use something like ProPhoto? I hate ProPhoto's modifiers. I absolutely hate them. And for those lights to be as expensive as they are, for those modifiers to be so difficult to set up, to me that's a deal breaker. I went to Scotland with ProPhoto like 6-7 years ago, and that one trip, like I met with ProPhoto, I used the gear. After that one trip, I was like, you guys can have it back. So I'm not making fun of ProPhoto or Godox or Rotolight or anyone who uses whatever. I really do believe in finding the right gear that works for you, because at the end of the day, if it works for you, who am I to say it doesn't? What I can share is just what my experience has been, and I hope it's beneficial to all of you out there. So one last question. People are always gonna ask about when my workshops are coming, because we haven't had full workshops for so long, thanks to COVID and insanity around the world. So I'm in the process of releasing all of my workshops as we speak. Just earlier or last night, I released my first 3 workshops for next year, and those are going to be happening in London, or excuse me, in the UK. So we have a London photo walk, a London 2-day workshop, a Manchester photo walk, and a Edinburgh, Scotland photo walk. So I'm excited about those. It's been a long time since, and I went to the UK a year ago to do the last campaign, but I haven't been to the UK for my own workshops in 3-4 years. So it's been a while, and I'm very excited to come back. So with that being said, I want to leave, I have time to answer all of your questions, as I promised. So I want to make sure to answer all of those questions for you guys out there. So with that being said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I am going to open it up to questions from all of you.
Let me get mine out of the way real quick if I can, Jason. You said the backwards compatibility on these lights obviously are different from the Pro versus the old ones, and they integrated them to where you could use your triggers, but you had to put a receiver on there. And I know everyone is kind of invested their money in some of these older lights, like I have as well. And is Rotolight ever gonna like make a program where you could like trade in, like, like Adorama or B&H, where you could trade up your gear and they could give you credit for your older gear, and that way it'll help you with some of your investment going forward into the newer gear?
Yeah, what gear do you have, Artemis?
I had the Innova Pro 2 from a long time ago. I have all the Neo 2s that you signed, the 3 kit. And then I have, yeah, I still got that one, buddy. I'm never going to get rid of that one, of course. But I do have a few other Neo 2s. And then I just bought recently the Neo 3, but that was before they came out with the Pro. And I wanted to invest in the AOS 2s. And I also have 2 regular AOS, the first gen.
Yeah, you got a lot.
Yeah.
So are they going to do a trade-in program? I can't speak on behalf of them in regards to that. That's a Rotolight decision. Clearly, it would be awesome if they did it. Do your AOS ones, yeah, Yeah, your AOS ones. They strobe, right?
Yes, I only have one AOS one, and then the other 4 are the AOS 2s.
Okay.
And then I had the one AOS 3, and like I said, the 2 AOS, first an AOS and the Innova Pro 2. So yeah, I've got a few of them, but I have not used the Innova for a long time, ever since they've been getting brighter and brighter as
Yeah.
time goes along, and that's such a heavy light. And I know the other ones, like you were saying, like even the Titan, like $4,000, even with 40% off. That's, it's a lot of money for some people. I just wish if they don't even give like a trade up program, if they gave like maybe like even a payment program where you could just pay them until it's paid for and then they ship it to you. That would be cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that they're listening or they're going to watch this. So I have no doubt that the great thing about saying it right here is that they're listening. I can almost guarantee that. So we'll see if I hear anything from them. If they get back to me on that, then I'll let you know.
I just think that'd be that would be a money machine if you're able to do that, because I guarantee people would be willing to go that route, because not everybody, has the patience to sit there and save up for something and buy it all at once. If they had like,
No, I do know that they use Klarna, which is like a payment program. I don't know if you're aware of that, but
no, I wasn't aware of that.
yeah, they use Klarna where they'll split up. I don't know if any of you guys out there use Sezzle or Klarna, those kinds of things, but they'll break up the payments. So they do that.
Cool. Okay, that's awesome to know that.
Yeah, so you can check that out.
Awesome. And then I do want to take another one of your workshops again, because I really want to get into the trigger aspect. I have the Electron trigger and I have the app, and for some reason during the app I was having so many problems with it connecting. I even talked to one of the guys and it took forever for it to connect. I'm more of a hands-on guy. I'm sure a lot of people are. And just to see it happen and see how everything connects as a hands-on with one of your workshops would be pretty good to know.
Well, come to one of my workshops, my man. I'm gonna wait to see your window outside with your breath on the window of my bedroom. So I can't wait to see you again, brother.
All right, to that, sir.
All right, brother. Thanks so much. I'll see you soon.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna ask my question. Thank you for the walk. That was amazing. And I kept asking you questions, and I'm gonna ask you now.
Hey, that's why I'm here.
So I never use any of those lights. I have a Godox, I have a Bowens at home at my studio. But like for somebody like me that wanna start, which one? I know you shared the screenshots on your screen, but like, can you share it one more time so I can take a screenshots? Like, what can I get the first step for somebody that never used?
How much money do you want to spend? I'm not even being funny when I say that. Like, it depends on how much money, because I can show you all the screenshots, but if you don't have the money, it doesn't matter. Like, do you have 1,500 to spend? Do you have 500 to spend? How much do you have to spend?
Yeah, like 500-600.
Okay, then you would get a Neo 3.
Neo 3.
Yeah.
And you said they are in UK? I have to order from you? Okay.
You're at the photo walk. I mean, seeing those things come to life, it was pretty cool, right?
Yes, it was. And like, seriously, like for me that I feel like I'm going to mess it up. Like that's why I'm here, because I can use my Godox and those lights together, because I'm afraid they're not going to work together, right? That's the part.
Well, these ones will. So I'm going to be coming, as we spoke about, I'm coming back to Niagara Falls in sometime when it's warmer, and we're going to do a workshop. So you should come up and we'll put them all together for you.
Yes. Well, like in summertime, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's too cold right now.
Okay. So I guess the links are in your website, on your Facebook. I saw, I guess.
Go to you guys, you can go to rotolight.com/time. I'll type it here. Oh no, I won't, because the keyboard's too high. But you can go to rotolight.com/time2go pro. I'll type it real quick. move my little booty up here.
Thank you. You're amazing.
Well, thank you.
And that group shot looks really good.
It does look good, right? We had such a good time.
Well, it was just cold. At the end, I was like, I'm done.
It was cold. Yep. Not gonna lie, it was cold. I was freezing my little tushy off.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, honey. Thank you. What's up? What's next? Who's next? I can't hear you, brother. You guys have to unmute yourself. Oh, we have some spa music going on.
Jason, what's up?
What's up, baby?
What's happening? Hey, I just want to say, one, hope you feel better, and always thank you for doing these videos. And I got my AOS 2 right here, always ready to go, ready to shoot.
Nice.
And just want to thank you. Man, because you're the man. And ever since I went to your workshop, man, I feel like a new person, to be honest.
Nice. Well, if you want to send me royalty checks from all the business you're booking, I'll take it.
Okay, that sounds good. Hey, have a good one, man. I gotta run.
All right, brother. Be good. I love you. Talk to you later. All right, who's next? What questions do you guys have?
Hey, Jason, this is Sam. You hear me?
Yeah, Sam. I'm like your 10th favorite photographer.
Yeah, that's kind of bumped up a bit since.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm actually gonna ask you to try to convince me why this isn't the perfect light for me. Because I know I mentioned to you when we met that I'm just trying to make it simpler for me to shoot. I kind of want don't want to think too much. I do love the whole you see what you get thing, but
Sure.
yeah, and I'm trying to bring lights back into my workflow, because to me, just carrying all my Godox, even the 8200s, you get a couple of them, it just gets and you gotta do the whole test check.
Yeah.
It's just too much for me. So again, it seems like even the Neo, it seems like it's powerful enough to equal a speed light. Is that right?
No,
Or just
it's
about
not
the same?
It's not as powerful as an 8200. I mean, it depends on what your subject matter is. Are you shooting a lot outdoors or indoors? And at what time?
Well, see, even in my experience, even with outdoors, I can manage with a speed light. I mean, not like but it's not like yeah, it's just 8200 is definitely like the perfect. I don't need anything stronger than that. But even a lot of times, I don't find myself needing an 8200. Seems like a speed light works just fine, because I like to have the light close to the subject anyway. I don't like having it far. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out why this light even the Neo doesn't make sense for me. The price seems affordable enough. So again and again, all the effects and all that cool stuff is just extra. But
I think
the compatibility is there. The compatibility with Godox is there. I just don't see a reason why this isn't the ultra portability, no nonsense kind of simple light.
It is all of those things. The only caveat that I'll keep saying, because I always want to be 100% with photographers and want to make sure that they know, because it's so important that we're given correct information. But the only caveat to that is going to be when you shoot outdoors. If it's very bright, that's where speed light's going to be needed. Outside of that, yes, you can use these for virtually anything.
Well, because I saw the first video I ever saw of you was you using the Neo 2. And it was like a vintage shoot, I think, with Maddie. You were using it on top of the camera.
London, yeah.
Yeah. And it seemed like it worked just fine there. That didn't seem like yeah, sure, it wasn't the bright harsh light environment, but I don't shoot in harsh light, you know, most of the time anyway. But that's still an outdoor, you know,
It was,
situation.
and I remember that shoot very well. When people always say, "Hey, I don't get the same results as you do in your videos," my response is always, "Are you doing what I do in my videos? If you're not doing what I do, you're not going to get the same results." So that London being London, if you look behind me, this is very London-y kind of weather. I'm not in London, but you get my point. It's very
Right.
fast. There's no harsh light. This kind of a condition is perfect for a Neo 3. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I can go outside, and that shoot with Maddie, if you remember, I put the Neo 2 on top of my camera and was strobing it.
Yeah.
So meaning on top of my camera, that light was close to her. So if you shoot in an environment like this where it's more overcast or stuff like that, it's going to work great. But if you shoot where you need a ton of light and you want to have the light further away from your subject, that's where you would use a speed light. But for these kind of scenarios, no, I mean, a Neo 3 would be great.
Yeah, I think I don't see why I wouldn't get it. I mean, I've got to test it with you during the LA you know, workshop, and I was very impressed by it. So I'm looking forward to owning a Rotolight soon.
All right, brother. Well, thank you for being there. Thanks for coming to the event. And I'm glad to hear that it was really beneficial for you. And I'm also really happy that I moved up on your list of your favorite photographers. What a punk. All right. I love you, buddy. Thanks. Who's next? You guys like the view? I mean, it's really crazy. It's just, watch this.
I have a question that is not about lighting. It's about, you've been there for a week, right?
Yeah.
Is it, I don't know, is it personal I'm asking, or is it just like,
I don't know. I don't know what you're going to ask.
Where you at?
you know what I mean? Like, is it for work you're staying? Or I'm just curious. Sorry. You don't have to answer.
I'm a photographer, and the world is my workplace.
And one more question.
Yeah.
I know, and I admire you as a photographer, and I love your work, you know.
Thank you.
The business part of it, like last week on a photo walk, like I was talking to your assistant, like in the future, anything like that, like, are you ever going to talk about business side or?
Oh yeah, and no, absolutely. And in the past, I've done a lot of business workshops. I've done editing workshops and all that kind of stuff. So no, I'm looking to incorporate that into the next year's platform as well.
Yeah, because one of your assistants, I forgot his name, but like amazing photographer, and I was like, oh my God, why don't you make money? And he was like, yeah, I don't know the business part of it. And just so many other photographers that they are good, but about the business part, they need support. Just like
Yep.
me.
Yep. It's a tough business to make money if you don't know what you're doing. So you have to be very clever, and you have to hustle. Truth is, most people don't want to hustle. How do I put this? People choose security over creativity. I know that sounds harsh, but like what I do is there's no guarantee I get a paycheck ever. So it's a big risk. So you have to be willing to take that risk, and not a lot of people are willing to take that risk. That's just the facts.
True.
I mean, I had a great job. I was an executive with Marriott, and I was making six figures and stock options, and had an office overlooking the ocean. I was in my late 20s. I mean, I was set, and I chose to leave that career and choose this career. And sometimes you make a lot of money, sometimes you don't. And so you just have to weather the storms, and you have to decide that this is a lifestyle that you choose as a creative and go for it. But not a lot of people want to deal with that level of insecurity and instability. And so you have to be willing, and it has to be more important to you to be a photographer, to be a creative. That has to be the utmost important thing to you in order for you to truly succeed at this, because you have to hustle to keep it going. I remember one of my first assistants, way back 5, 6, 7, even longer, 8, 9 years ago. And then I when I was finally asked to be a Sony artisan, and I became a Sony artisan, she was expecting that the world was going to change and that my life was going to transform overnight because I was all of a sudden sponsored by Sony. And this just doesn't happen. I was with Sony for 4 years. It doesn't happen. Being a sponsored photographer has some great things to it, but it doesn't transform your life. So I remember her saying to me, man, I thought it would be easier. Like, we worked so hard to get here, and that's still a grind. And I think that that's what people don't really understand, is you have to really grind. And if you're not willing to do that grind, then it's not the right job for you. So I know who you're talking about, and I know the kind of people you're talking about, people who are talented creatives, but they work other jobs. Sometimes you just have to have the guts to just go for it.
Yeah, that's a part.
The way
And
I see it is that there's no other way. If I had no other way to make money and I had to make money at this, what would I do? And when you get into that mindset, you will hustle and you will do whatever you got to do to make money. So I think that's really the ultimate thing right there.
yeah, 100%. And especially, I don't know. I'm not gonna say, okay, I'm a single mom, but like making this as a full-time job, up and down of the business, it is really a struggle for me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure for so many other people. But like one person income is just.
I know. I've been a one person for forever, so I get it. Trust me.
And I really look forward to see your business part of workshops or whatever you want to do. So.
No, and even when I do my 2-day workshops that are shooting workshops, we go out to lunch, we go out to dinner. All of those conversations always turn into business. They always do. And that's one of the big benefits of coming to the workshops, is we sit there and just talk shop, and we talk business throughout the entire, dinners and lunches that can sometimes be an hour or two. And those have been some of the most informative parts of the workshops, is that sitting down part where we're not distracted by cameras, we're not distracted by pretty models or pretty locations. We are just sitting in a cafe or wherever we're sitting, and we're talking. And I purposely create those environments. I purposely sit in the middle of the table to take people's questions, because those are that kind of knowledge for me to be able to pass on to people is very invaluable. The other thing that I do on the workshops, the 2-day workshops, is I do one-on-one critiques. And I always tell people you get a specified amount of time where it's just you and me one-on-one. And in that moment, you can ask me anything, and I'll go over, hey, what are you doing with your business? And I'll look at your website, and I'll look at other things in your portfolio, and I'll try to help you see where you're lacking and what you could be doing better.
Super. I know it's going to be in person, but you haven't mentioned like in Toronto soon or next year, or right? You're frozen.
Like 7, 8 months.
Okay.
Be here, sister.
Thank you.
You're welcome, honey. Thank you so much for coming. And yes, you'll get the group shot.
Thank you.
Just one last question, Jason. You said you had more workshops. I saw the 4 that you posted on there. Is that the only 4 you're doing for next year, or?
Dude, I'd be a broke ass pimp.
I'm just trying to figure out when you're coming back down close to where I'm going to be at.
That's so funny. No. I didn't read them. I wrote right No, I love you, brother. No. I just am pushing it out. I love you, man. All of the workshops are going to be out before Black Friday. So am I coming to Florida? Of course. I love Florida.
I kind of figured you did.
Yeah.
And then the one last question I just had too was when you triggered from the Godox and stuff like you were saying before on the flashes, do you set the power on the Rotolight, or does
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
How
Just
does it
set it
trigger?
manually on the Rotolight, either with an app or with by hand.
Okay, so it'd be 1/50th. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Appreciate it, sir. Hope to see you again soon.
You'll see me. You pay, I'll be there. See, that's how you make money.
I know.
Gotta create a
But, you
product.
know, I kind of piggyback. Well, I didn't piggyback. I just kind of, I know what you're saying when you're explaining all that business aspect to her. It's like after me retiring and stuff like that, I kind of wanted to wind down and just do my own thing. And that's why I came up with our side business, and it's been doing really well. Me and my wife had just got together, and like I said, we just make our business the props on our property, and people just rent. And that's how I make extra on the side, as long as photography as well. And that way I'm able to be more creative on that side. Kind of like not what you do, but I try to cover both fields.
Not doing. If there's one thing I could just, I know I just spoke about it, but one thing that photographers need to hear is, if you really have to be hungry, and you have to be willing to let go of the safety net. When people say, "Hey, where are you going to get your money next month?" I don't know.
That's true. Yeah.
I'll figure it out. Where are you going to get it next year? I have no clue. Talk to an accountant, talk to an attorney. Hey, what are your projected revenues for 2023? I don't know. And that's so opposite of being, coming from a corporate background where like when I worked in hotels and projecting a certain amount of growth and a certain amount of revenue and a certain amount of expense, and this is what we're going to do. And then you have to try to hit those budgets and blah, blah, blah. It makes my head explode thinking about when I used to do that. But now it's just like, look, I look at this. So for example, when I look at something like going on my UK trip that I just posted, I have to look at it's just basic, but I mean, what are the gross revenues, and what are my expenses, and what's my net revenue? And then I can say, okay, this is what I'm going to make, $10,000 in January. I'm going to make $2,000 in January, whatever it is, and then, 20,000 in March, or whatever it is. I'm just throwing out numbers, but the point is, it is like that. Even as a wedding photographer, when I was a wedding photographer full time, easier, because at least, if you're into weddings full time, it usually takes at least 1-2 year cycle for you to be a really fully booked wedding photographer, because you have to go to the shows and you have to book out for a certain amount of time. But once you're booked out, I used to be able to look and say, okay, I got 35 weddings. At this time of the year, I could look for the following year, 2023, and say 30 weddings for next year. This is the rates. So I have $100,000 of business booked. Here's my expenses. That was easier for me to project my revenue. But now, people sign up for workshops, you sign up. I can't get people to sign up for work 2 years in advance, a year and a half in advance. We have to do the workshops in a way that, okay, can you come in 6 months? Can you come in 9 months? So the lifestyle that I choose is less pure, but it's fun as hell. And so I'm going everywhere in the world and having the best. I wouldn't change it.
I got you. I hear you. That makes sense.
Okay, one more question.
Hit me, mama.
So you talked about wedding. So you don't do weddings anymore, or?
If somebody wants to pay me what I want to charge for it, but I shoot about 2 to 3. It's usually something that I've known, or if I'm doing a wedding workshop. I love doing wedding workshops because somebody will book me. So somebody books me for X amount of dollars. Normally, if I charge for wedding, $10,000, but if I do real wedding workshop, I'll charge a client like $3,000, and then I'll charge workshop attendees, you come to the wedding with me. Make charge, but it's a
Jason, your internet is very.
well, I'm in Canada. I don't know what to tell you, but But the bottom line is, no, I still do weddings, but it just depends on, I don't do them full time. I want to be a full-time wedding photographer.
Okay. And one more thing is, I shoot like mostly like weddings or portraits or branding. These are the three areas that I work with. But like going full time, I know you said don't do it full time, but like advertising as a wedding photographer, what other areas do you recommend beside the shows?
There is, I mean, you could go to Wedding Wire, you can go to the Knot, you can go to any of those, but I don't really recommend doing that. I think you're throwing your money away. I really do recommend going to the bridal shows. I really do.
Bridal shows. Okay.
Because you're there. I mean, if you get somebody like me with my mouth, I can talk clients into booking. I really can. And then of course I show them my work and they book. So, when I go to a show, for example, people really love the work. The real, struggle is getting those people to love the work and for me to get their money away from them to be able to pay for the work. So, that's the thing. But so I guess what I'm saying is you have to create work that people want, and then you have to find a way to get it in front of people. So, I always say, I've said this for so many years, it's been one of my little taglines, but it doesn't matter how good you are if nobody knows it. So you can be the best whatever in the world, but if nobody knows it, it doesn't matter. So you got to get out there.
Okay. Yeah, I signed up for one. My first one is coming up in January. So
Good. On your work, focus on showing your work and playing your work in a way that is really pushing that, and understand the market, understand what the other photographers in that show are going to have for pricing. If you go in there and the average, $1,500, and like I'm worth $3,000, it doesn't matter. They're not going to pay it to you. They're not, because your demographic, you got to look at the demographics of people coming into what is your stream. So if your customer stream, if you're worth $3,000, it doesn't matter. For me, walking there and Mr. Jason Lanier charging $7,000, $8,000, whatever $1,000 for a wedding, it doesn't matter if they love my work. I have the money, they don't have it. So I have to make sure that I market myself in an area where people can afford to pay me. You don't put a Tesla or Mercedes dealership in an area that doesn't have a lot of income. So I mean, so you have to decide. And I'm not saying there's bad to anything. You have to decide if your packages are a Kia, a Honda, a Toyota, a Mercedes, or whatever. You have to decide where your packages are, market to it, and don't be for it and make people who can afford the Kias. You don't want to sell Kias to somebody who wants to buy a Mercedes.
Right.
That's advice I'd give you. So if you know that everybody in there is charging $1,500 or $2,000, put your pricing at about $1,350. Make it something attractive. Great, and that your price. Sometimes get caught into this thing, and we.
You're freezing up, Jay.
yeah, Jason,
when I move too fast, I think it freezes.
No, I don't know, like this works with Zoom. Like sometimes when you turn off your camera, the audio works better if you want to turn off your camera.
Went into different topics, but what other lighting?
What do you say?
I know he broke up, but I just want to say I gotta go, Jason. Brother, I love you. I'll see you later. You take it easy. I hope you get better with your sickness, and we'll chat later.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I love you. Until next time. Keep
Thank you.
dreams. Find out that works for you. Talk to you
Thank
guys
you,
later.
Jason.
Bye-bye.
I hope you